I'd like to begin with a discussion of 6 facts about water. Fact number 1. Building and managing water infrastructure is a huge societal enterprise. This image shows the Three Gorges Dam in China. It cost over $20 billion to build. In the United States, we have over 50,000 water utilities and over 30,000 wastewater utilities. And we have many dams, irrigation schemes, flood levees, and other water infrastructure. If we thought of water as an industrial sector, it would be one of the largest sectors in the economy. The World Bank has estimated that a child born today in Ethiopia has capital assets, both man-made and natural capital, worth about $2,000 US. This is her endowment to build upon and get ahead in life. A child born in the United States or Europe arrives in the world with a share of the nation's capital that's worth about $500,000 US. That's 250 times more than an Ethiopian child. And a substantial portion of a U.S. child's capital endowment is infrastructure, and a major portion of this is in the water and sanitation sector. Fact number 2. Pipe water networks are very capital intensive. If we think of capital intensity in terms of the amount of capital needed to produce a unit of output or revenue, the water industry is not only one of the largest sectors, but also one of the most capital intensive. Only petrochemicals and power generation have comparable levels of capital intensity to the water and sanitation sector. The high capital intensity of the water sector means that financing becomes extremely important. A community may want a new piped water and sewer system, and people or government may be willing to pay the full cost of these services as they're rendered. But this is not sufficient. The community must find the financing to pay the upfront capital costs for the construction of the project. When China started building its industrial infrastructure in the 1970s and 80s, it partially solved its financing problem with barter deals with foreign partners. China promised to repay loans from Japanese and Western companies with the output of these industrial and natural resource projects in which the investments were made. But these kinds of barter deals were difficult in the water sector because water itself is not easily traded. This made construction of water infrastructure more challenging because the financing was harder to arrange. Fact number 3. Household demand for small quantities of water is price inelastic. Economists as far back as Adam Smith have puzzled over the economic value of water. They compared the value of water, a necessity of life, and its price, which was typically very low, to diamonds, a luxury good with a very high price. And they puzzled why the price of water did not reflect its value to life. This diamond water paradox was resolved by the concept of diminishing marginal utility. Small amounts of water are essential for life, but for these quantities, demand is very price inelastic. This means people will pay almost anything for small quantities of water if they have to do so. I've seen situations where poor households spend 10 to 20% of their income for small quantities of water. And I've been to places where a liter of water costs more than a liter of gasoline. However, the fact that household demand for small quantities is price inelastic does not necessarily imply that demand for improved water quality is price inelastic. And we're going to come back to this in the course. Fact number 4. Storage is easy. Transport can be very expensive. Note that this is just the opposite of electricity. Storage of electricity is hard, but transport is easy. Reservoirs can be used to store water. Households can store water relatively cheaply in storage tanks and cisterns. But water is very heavy, and this makes transport difficult. When water must be lifted or pumped, transporting it often becomes prohibitively expensive. This image is the Roman aqueduct of Pont de Gard in France. Aqueducts were possible because water ran downhill from mountainous regions to cities at lower elevations. But these civil engineering projects were still extremely capital intensive and expensive. One of the important implications of the fact that transporting water is difficult is that water problems are largely local. Long-distance transport of water is not likely to be an economically efficient solution to local water scarcity problems in most situations. But this doesn't mean that there are no linkages between water problems and the macroeconomy or the global economy. The 2011 floods in Bangkok disrupted global supply chains. Professor Tony Allen at King's College has introduced us to the concept of virtual water, the quantity of water embedded in products. Cereal crops require water as an input for their production, and countries that import cereal are effectively importing water embedded in the cereal. But it is much cheaper to ship cereal than it is to ship water to grow cereal. Fact number 5, water is a renewable resource. We use water, but we don't actually consume water. Water is not like oil or coal, which are non-renewable resources. We can change the quality and location of water as it moves through the hydrological cycle, but we can't destroy it. Sometimes we speak of groundwater aquifers as being non-renewable. This means that when water is withdrawn from the aquifer, it's not recharged, but that doesn't mean that water abstracted from such aquifers is removed from the hydrological cycle. Fact number 6, water is not just an economic good. This image shows the baptism of Christ by John the Baptist. Water plays a spiritual role in the traditions of all the great world religions. Water is also important for cultural, social, and environmental reasons, not just for economic uses. So when we work in the water sector, we need to be aware that water elicits powerful passions and emotions. Well, thank you for watching this video. In the next video, we're going to look at global statistics about who has improved water and sanitation services in different parts of the world.